And it's another episode of That Time I Got Reincarnated in the same world as an anime podcaster. Episode 12.
Wow.
We did it. We're here.
God.
Not quite a full year, but 12 episodes, one a month, basically a year. Our 13 will be the full 1 year anniversary.
Yeah, the full rotation. 12 is still a lot, especially because we did it monthly and not like weekly, so it meant more like we came back to it. I've been told most podcasts don't get past episode 5, so we're like in the top like 10, if not 5% of all podcasts.
Yeah, I mean, and
maybe even 1%. Who knows?
We gotta say thanks to everybody who's listening because we're doing. The numbers are looking good.
Sure wish I knew who was listening.
Yeah, like we made it. We made it a full year with absolutely nobody one talking to us.
We're such dweebs.
Turns out the anime community is not the most social.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell you what though. I got a little bit of a thing that maybe we can get some interaction, because today I'm going to announce that we have a Patreon.
Whoa, this is news to me. I'm not faking this genuinely.
So
this is news to me as well.
I actually set up a Patreon like a month and a half ago, and I knew I was going to wait until this episode to announce it, but I did put the link up on the website. And absolutely no one has clicked on it. So,
I mean, I don't go to who goes to the websites?
Well, hopefully plenty of people are going to the website and reading all the blog posts.
Yeah, you're right. There are numbers on the blog post.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Really nobody that wants to give us $1 on Patreon.
Right. And so that's what I got to say. Currently, there are no tiers. So if you want to just throw us $1 or $2, you can go ahead and do that.
Do we do the Discord route? That feels like the most minimum effort.
Well, and that's what I want to say is I want to know what people would want out of our Patreon. Like, what do you want to see? What kind of tiers should we have? I think it's pretty easy to do, like, a Discord server where people can chat with us. Would people be interested in like a once a month live chat or, a stream or something like that? I guess those are the same thing. Would people be interested in buttons? My wife bought a button machine and I've been making buttons. I made some buttons with our little avatars on it, and would people be interested in that? For $5, I'll send you like 5 different buttons or something like that. So let me know.
I'd buy that for $1. I mean, if you're like me on Patreon, it's mostly just I give like $2 to a bunch of different things that I like and really don't want anything in return.
And that's the thing. If people want to just say, "Hey, we like what you do. Here's $1 a month" or something like that, feel free.
I'll pay you $1 a month if you come to our Discord that doesn't exist yet.
We got to be able to pay for Boxu somehow. So
yeah.
So I hope to hear from people on there.
People haven't talked to us on free platforms. Maybe if they pay us money, they'll talk.
That way they'll know it's only the people who are serious.
Yeah.
Yeah, they won't have to engage with the commoner.
It'll be all private and secret.
Yeah.
Because, email and Twitter DMs aren't for some, I don't know. Couple news items besides that. Chainsaw Man, we've been watching that. It's going real good.
That hadn't dropped last time. We just talked it up. Yeah, it's
we're
freaking,
enjoying
they know what
that.
they're doing. I'm excited.
Go out on our YouTube channel. We have a fast take video up there. Fast take, but it's like 11 minutes long. So
that's fast for us.
But we went
There's
into
a lot to be fast about.
That was after we watched the first episode and we talked about it a little bit and just gave our first impressions and everything. So check that out. And also watch Chainsaw Man. It's great.
Watch a bunch of anime coming out this season we've already talked about. It's all great.
Additionally, Frieren Volume 6 is out. Just handed it to Andrew today.
Sitting on my bookshelf to be read probably sometime. Tomorrow even.
I am still in love with it. We're having some divergent opinions, but I think it's great. So you should definitely check it out.
I'll pass judgment later.
I guess. Well, so the Volume 7 isn't going to come out until like February. There's like a bigger break in between this one. So maybe after you guys read Volume 6, we'll do another follow-up.
Yeah, I'd be open to that.
Either next episode or after.
If I feel like I have new things to say, I'd be in for that.
Or
it's kind of been our book club.
I guess we should probably wait for the anime, but that's probably going to be late next year.
Yeah, I wouldn't wait that long to talk about our manga readings.
We can get ahead of it. We can be there. We can search engine optimize. Have a bunch of content out there so that when people are ready,
we need to make sure to drop it like the month or the month before.
The words from the true wise podcast maker who follows the trends. Appreciate your wisdom.
The trends of reading books from the 1800s.
That's right. And Dune.
A lot of Dune.
Well, that's like what? 70s, 80s, 90s.
I think Dune came out in 65.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn.
What's the most recent book that you read? Like
Ready Player 2
came out. He
Yeah.
didn't read that.
I read
Don't
Ready
put that.
Player 2.
No, don't put that out.
That's the one podcast I listen to because I like hearing about it.
No, probably. We've read a few, like The Burning God came out within the last couple of years. Yeah, we've stayed up on a couple. We bounce around. It's not all old men.
House of Leaves.
Brad, come on.
Middle-aged man.
Back on track. Chop, chop.
If they make a House of Leaves anime, we can watch it.
Oh my
the
God!
crossover of the
Talk about
millennia.
pretentious. All right. So a little bit different this time. Before we jump into the main thing we're going to talk about, Andrew has some stuff he'd like to say.
Okay, I've got my little... We don't have a proper manga book club. Manga book club.
Dun-dun-dun.
This episode. Reading Rainbow. So last time, I believe it was last episode, I got really uppity about a new manga in Shonen Jump called Tokyo Demon Bride Story, just in case you didn't know it was a story. And I had found...
No, is that the actual name?
Yes.
Because we couldn't
That's not
remember
me.
it last
No, I
time.
couldn't. I made sure I double-checked it because I forgot the story bit. I'm like, I know there's 4 pieces of it. I was Googling
So
it for
now that you
something.
know the name, make sure you don't read it.
Yeah. I poked my head in again, and it's doing exactly what I thought it was doing. So I'm on Shonen Jump. I'm catching up on my normal weeklies and whatnot, and I see, hey, there's another new manga that came out roughly around the same time because it's got like 7 chapters out as opposed to like Demon's like 8. And I was like, oh, cool, I'll check this out. And it's called, and the name caught me by surprise, and I'm like, sure, I'll give it. It's called Glinka and Luna, but there's like a G in front of the Luna, but the G is silent, so it looks like Glinka and Gluna. And I'm just like, that's weird.
Is it Linka?
I mean, they haven't said the G is silent on Linka, just Luna.
Oh, they actually called it out and said
the author
G is-
specifically states somewhere says it that it's like the G is silent, but it's Gluna, I guess, because it was the double G, and it's like, haha, fun.
I think in the kana, I read this one too. In the kana, they spell it as Luna. So he comments on why there's a G there, but he didn't write it.
Interesting.
Neat. Okay, so I kind of love it. It's not the most amazing thing. It's not like when I started reading Chainsaw Man, I'm like, oh, this is something. But like, it is the most, compared to my rant last episode, it is like the most wonderful breath of fresh air. It is a female main protagonist who is not usually sexualized or at all, really. I guess, I don't know. I would say no, at least so far. Her parents are dead. She's living in like the snowy mountains. And she's just getting by, and she makes a little snowman guy, and then he comes to life, and that's Glinka. The girl is Luna. The snowman man is Glinka. And then they go on like a magical adventure, and it's just refreshing that it's not an isekai. The magic system is more akin to like wacky cartoon magic, where it's just like, well, what do we want to do? That's what the magic does. It's not teenagers fighting supernatural things. It's really like positive. It's very much of like, hey, you tried your best, like, and that's important. You'll be able to get it someday, and like kind of. I like its message, even if it is really basic. Like, it's just like a really cozy, warm hug of a thing to read. I have no idea how it's going to continue because it's moving really quickly and sporadically, and they're slowly they're collecting pieces, but that's not what's important about it. But one of the things I really like is I read the snowman guy, Glinka. He reads like Sans from Undertale. So he's got a very he's clearly very powerful, but he's also kind of a knucklehead. And you never know when he's doing a bit or not. So I always hear that whenever he's talking, I hear Sans' little dialogue noises, which has made him very charming. So far, like right now, they're going on adventures. They're building a team of like other magic people who have different strengths and traumas they're dealing with, but everything seems very like positive mental health stuff, and it's just sort of like fun, wacky, woohoo adventure. Also, it's the thing, I don't know if it's full on the exact thing I've asked for, but like the shonen adventure where the protagonist is a female. And I'm just like, yes, here we are. It's an action-y kind of thing, and it's just a good, positive time, and it was this breath of fresh air that I asked for and was gifted. I just was a little late in finding it, but I would say if you've got access to Shonen Jump, or even if you don't, I mean, we pimp it freaking every single episode because it's like one of the best deals that I've ever paid for ever.
You should have it by now.
It's like $2. If not, the first like 3 or 4 chapters are always free.
We already offered to pay 4 people to nobody's taking it.
Go check it out. It's not going to freaking turn the earth in the sky, but compared to everything that's been coming out recently, it's this really nice, refreshing breath of fresh air that I think people should go look at.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely go check that out. I'm glad you found something that does it for you.
Yeah, well, there's that thing. That's the thing. Something pops up there and I get excited, and sometimes it's a disappointment, and sometimes like, wow, this is great. I love this. I wanted to make sure I talked about that after I got so down about things last time.
Here's hoping it goes the way we want it to, and that one keeps going and the other one doesn't.
Yep. Fingers crossed. You never know. Some of those ones where I'm like, I don't know what's going on with this one. It's like they're getting up to their 20s and 30s chapters. I'm like, I guess somebody's reading this. I don't know.
Yeah. So for our 12th episode, we thought we'd do something a little bit different and do That Time I Got Reincarnated in the Same World as an Anime Podcaster, Origins.
:0. It's a prequel.
Oh, that's right. 0.
Chapter 0.
Chapter 0. We're going back. Get ready for all the flashbacks. That means one of us is dying at the end of the episode. Because you're going to see our tragic backstories about why us dying is more compelling. I'm looking at you, One Piece. I'm looking at you, Demon Slayer. I'm looking at you, I think My Hero Academia. I'm looking at you, other anime that we've watched that does that.
Yeah, talk about tropes. So, instead of our normal thing where we're doing, discussion and then an isekai segment and then our book club reading watching thing, we're gonna break this up, and we're each gonna talk about how we got here, our anime origin stories.
Yeah, gonna go look back. We're gonna take you back to the past.
Our weeb beginnings.
To watch them. No, I can't keep going with that.
I didn't introduce us.
No?
Huh.
Well,
no, you didn't.
Well, that'll work because we're going to introduce ourselves through these segments.
To introduce myself. There's 3 of us. Just to be clear, there's 3 different voices. Yeah.
So to kick things off, I'm going to throw it over to Kermit D. Grog, a.k.a. Andrew.
Toss it over to me. So I've been thinking about, ever since we talked about this episode, I've been thinking about getting into anime when I was a kid and manga and all that. And there's 3 major chapters, and then it also has its own prequel. And the prequel is I feel like at least I'm a slightly different generation than you two.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much some of my accepted things are more different.
4 or 5 years younger?
Yeah, just about. So we all, I'm going to say we collective to my generation, then that may or may not include you guys. Everybody grew up watching Pokemon was on, but we didn't understand that was something different. And then by extension from that, Digimon. And then I guess there are 4 chapters. I did watch a lot of anime growing up. No, but I feel like that's sort of the indoctrination, and it's I already love cartoons, and then you've got Cartoon Network's got Toonami and that block, and we were just before we were recording to test the audio, we were talking about Hamtaro, because I've got a Hamtaro painting up on the wall, and it's I watched a bunch of that. I'm remembering anime on the Fox box, which I guess also fits a conversation we had before this. We made a playlist of a bunch of anime openings to play while we set up, and I'm even though I love One Piece, I know 2 One Piece openings. I know the Japanese We Go, because I watched Fishman Island a bunch in college. That was the arc I watched. And I know the One Piece 4 Kids rap, and that's it. But it's weird thinking back to those times, because so much of that is anime that's been put through the homogenation blender, where you get what we talked about, where you get the donuts, where you get the 4 Kids One Piece rap and all the edits you made, where you get I loved watching Ultimate Muscle also on the Fox box, which I think, if memory serves from old Wikipedia dives, I think the Fox box commissioned more Ultimate Muscle to be made just for America.
I think you're right.
Which is really weird because that series is very Japanese in moments. But I feel like in the beginning it was just sort of like everybody got indoctrinated with it because it was like Pokemon and Digimon was everywhere. I have like memories as a kid getting home from school and like making my way through the Boo saga and Dragon Ball Z. And then at some point, I think I'm in junior high, Toonami unveils this like block of anime, which I want to say there was 4 shows, but the 2 I remember were Naruto and Boba 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 Bo, which is a show that I continue to talk about and revere to this day. Maybe the other one was Bleach coming out of that time in like the early 2000s.
I think Bleach was a little later.
I want to say it was later, and that was more like Adult Swim Toonami than just this. But I remember this like specific block that I'd have to record on VHS tape because I was a sleepy baby and could not stay up past 9 p.m. very well. But that was when Boba Bo was on. But like that was this big like turning point, like because they just introduced them all episode 1 at once. So like keeping up with that week by week, and then like the internet's happening. So I'm like Googling about these things, and I'm like, oh man, these stories are coming from books called manga, and you can get those at the library, the bookstore. So then I just start going to Barnes and Noble and just start reading everything I can get my hands on. And I'm reading Naruto as it's coming out. Bobobo was weird that they had one book of it out, and it was like a giant one, and it was from like a billion arcs from where it started, and I have no idea why they just decided to start with that one in the not even middle, like in the last like quarter of the series run. They're like, yep, that one, and I still have that one on my shelf to this day. But like just all the just weird stuff, and I was a cheapskate, so I would just like get my mom to drive me and drop me off at the Barnes and Noble or the we had a Borders. I think I didn't read manga when we had the Borders, but would just sit there for an afternoon and just read whatever I could find, and just the absolute garbage I was reading probably amidst the other things. But it's like, wow, look at all this is great. And then at some point, probably in high school, between marching band and not wanting to look not cool, even though there wasn't really any, use trying to look cool because I couldn't do that. Like anime and manga for me goes dormant. Like I stop really watching anything. I stop reading. I just don't have like the time or the capacity for it. And then that goes for a while. And then I get into college, and then I meet all my college friends, and all of them are watching anime and manga. And I have like my first anime renaissance where I'm like, wow, what's this Cowboy Bebop thing? And oh man, I'm going to keep up with a new series, and what's Gurren Lagann? And wow, Kill la Kill is coming out, and like all this other stuff. And like I've got people to talk to this about as opposed to before when I have no one to talk to this about. And that's kind of this big like flowering moment. I'm learning how to torrent things off of the internet, and I'm just like finding anything I can get my hands on. I'm like specifically watching things subbed for the first time majorly because it's like you're not finding sub stuff on television really. I guess, is that still true now, or are they playing stuff in the original Japanese? Not that I watched like TV anymore, but
I don't think they really do
if
subs on TV.
Is a dub, I think they go for the dub.
Yeah,
I have seen subbed anime, but I don't think there's a dub of it.
Okay, because I know moving more modern, like I know Adult Swim Toonami was playing JoJo, and I know they play the dub version of it. Because that's how some people still get their anime, I guess. I don't know. But I feel like this is this turn of like, okay, now I'm like in this. Like I'm going to my college's anime club and like watching things and hearing about things that I've never seen of. I still remember that we watched, I want to say it was called Dead Man Wonderland.
Yep.
And I remember enjoying it, and then at a certain point it became like the crystallized version of like when an anime like or a story kind of kicks into what it's going to be, or it kind of changes gears, and sometimes you're like, yes, this is a flowering of what I thought it felt like, and sometimes it's like, this is not what I came here for. I don't like it anymore. And that has I remember almost nothing from that series, but I still remember it as the one that gave me that idea of like when it kind of clicks into what it really wants to do, and sometimes you can just completely go like, yeah, no, I didn't sign up for this. I'm not sticking around for this. This isn't whatever I liked. Was what was cast off as it moved into its its next evolution. And then that goes on for a while, and then I get out of college, and then I'm not really in contact with people as much, and other things take over my life for a while. And I think I've got it in the background, but not really anything. And then kind of the second renaissance is actually when we start watching anime at work. And the three of us become friends and start doing this. I think I was still kind of keeping up little bits and pieces from my college days. And
the
then
beginning of the Weeb Cabal.
Yes. And that was where I was like consistently keeping up with things.
Did we
week by week?
Did we start that before you left?
Yes, because I know because I think I don't remember. I think it was because I had anime posters up in my cubicle.
Yeah. Right, and we started talking about it.
I have vivid memories of watching One Punch Man in the
One Punch Man
room.
season 2.
Yeah,
did we watch season 1 together?
Maybe I'm thinking of Mob.
I know we started with My Hero. I think I had a My Hero poster up.
I think we went back and watched One Punch Man the first season.
I don't think we did.
I don't know. I can't remember.
Because I think I had already seen it at that moment, and I was like, I didn't. Maybe we did. I don't know.
I thought we did, but
I'm sure we've got that old Google doc you made of what we watched and semi when. But
so that would have been like a year before. So like 20.
That would have been probably
end of 2018. Beginning of 2019, something like that.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then just we've been doing this ever since and keeping up with stuff and talking about things and because like I'm not good at keeping up with series on my own, but when I've got people I can watch it with week by week, it means I'm actually taking an anime instead of just sort of like absorbing bits and pieces from the zeitgeist that pass by me on my internet desk.
So, is there any one series that you would say like in that whole span, starting from when you were a kid, up until I'll say up until when we started getting into it together, is there any one like anime or manga that you would point to and say like this was the thing that made me go, this is a thing that I'm into and I'm gonna keep going with it?
Ooh, I mean, I'd say it's a cheap answer, but it's also not because I've talked about it before. But like, genuinely, One Piece. One Piece has been with me since moment one. I talked about. Like, I was watching freaking One Piece on the Foxbox, the 4Kids edit and dub. Like I have a buddy who grew up with that too. That we both played the like GameCube One Piece like beat 'em up fighter. That like some of those sound clips from that freaking dub are still just lodged in my brain just forever. And it's what, because it's like in each spot, it's like I watched a bunch of it and then I kind of started reading it once I learned about manga existing. So I've got kind of the, like wherever I stopped in the anime and then I get the manga and then I take my break and then college happens and I'm like catching back up via the library and like buying actual Shonen Jump and reading it chapter by chapter and like trying to piece things together because the story, like I missed entire arcs while I was gone and like moving forward, but also trying to like catch up on things. And then in college, like I already said, like I watch almost week by week the entirety of the Fishman Island arc post time skip. And wow, that wasn't very good, but I kept up with it. And then just sort of kept reading from then. And now I'm like caught up on it. Like it's genuinely followed me since I was a kid for over a decade.
I think that's a great answer.
Which I don't think anything else has because it's like I loved Naruto growing up. Like that was my series when I was a teenager. But like now I'm just like no. I don't.
Well, I think that's I think there's probably a lot of people who would say One Piece or Bleach or Naruto or Dragon Ball, like those sort of like pillar shonen series that I mean they obviously connect with a lot of us, as a young I guess boy, teen
person. Yeah, no, I know. Because it's like it's not, One Piece was never, when I was younger, like I enjoyed it and kept up with it, but that was like no one else I knew was watching it or reading it really. But like Naruto was the thing people were talking about. Like we made our own little ninjas. We talked about the stories and who our favorite characters were. I think I made a freaking like blogspot little website about them because that was just the thing people were doing, like big cringe stuff that has hopefully been wiped off the internet. But like, it's interesting thinking back on those moments of like when certain series were just like, well, this is just what the friend group did. So this is what you were talking about because it's what you knew and what was cool. And how that's like kind of not the thing anymore. like how your kind of opinion can change about things over time.
Yeah.
But like, it's fun. It's interesting going back and going, which of these series did I like growing up that are like still I like and I even say I love now, and which ones I don't. And I guess one of the standouts I've talked about before is still iShield 21, which is a football manga, like American football, just to be super clear. Like, don't know why I was reading that when I was growing up. I think it was literally just like I could get my hands on it, so I was going to read it, and it looked kind of cool, but like I wasn't really into sports as a kid, so I just loved that so much, and then just, like I said, kind of dropped off in junior high and stopped reading manga and never finished it. And then literally, I think after we started our club up around that time, just every couple of weeks, I'm like, I'm going to buy another volume of that where I left off, and now I have it all back, and I've read it, and I'm like, as someone who does not like keeping like manga that I've read in the house, I have all of iShield 21 with me, and I think it's a really good time. I mean, I think it says something that in, is it in Mob Psycho? I think it's Mob Psycho and One Punch Man is like the artist of that, not the author, because that's one, is the author and artist of iShield 21. And it's like, maybe if somebody goes back and reads those, or, you know, I guess there's an anime for it.
Did you say One Punch Man?
Yeah.
That's Murata.
Okay. I don't know the name. And I mean,
does he do Mob too?
I don't know if it's the same person. Well, I think just one draws Mob. It could be one. It might have been One Punch Man. This was me. This was me a month ago at a Barnes and Noble's reading Assassination Classroom, because that's what I've been reading, and looking at the ads at the back and being like, wow, I remember some of these ads when I was reading actual physical manga many, many, many years ago, and it's weird to see them still advertised almost identically.
Yeah, not a lot of that's changed. I think it's pretty cool that you have something that you really connected with as a kid and you're still enjoying it a lot today. My tastes have changed a lot, and we'll get into that in a little bit, but you know, it's not that I don't like those things from my childhood, but like the stuff that I'm really into now is very different from that.
Oh, well, yeah, like there's stuff that I took in when I was a kid that like I wouldn't like now. I mean, like I said, I freaking loved Naruto growing up, and now I'm just like, I want nothing to do with that. And like Dragon Ball Z, more of my care and love of that is a combination of the abridged series and just it's just sort of general zeitgeist importance to all of anime pretty much. But a lot of it is not like, oh my gosh, I remember all these beats. Like, I didn't see a lot of it. I remember watching like Dragon Ball as a kid, which I probably shouldn't have been. Going back to read that and going, maybe not. But yeah, like certain things stick around and certain things don't. And I think it's interesting to see, like you're talking about, like what things do stick around, what things are quality at any age that will stick with you and still be cool or meaningful as you move forward through life.
Yeah, and
what doesn't.
And like I said, it's not necessarily that thing isn't, you know, good anymore or anything like that. It's just that like that sort of idea that you are still connected to that thing that you grew up with, that it's still meaningful to you, like presently, not that it's like it wasn't meaningful then, but like it continues to be meaningful to you and something that you enjoy and you seek out. I just think that's cool.
I don't know.
Probably because I don't really have that.
As someone who's been burning a lot of through lines to past me's, that's a really interesting thing to be told.
Something to think about.
But I guess those are the pieces left over in the furnace. So yeah. But yeah, that's my story. That's my going thing. I think it's little by little, in different eras and through different like mediums of literally just like, we didn't really have online manga or anime. You just had to watch what was on television and like moving through to, I can get anime on my computer, but I don't really know how to find manga. And now like having digital readers for that and streaming services and all this crazy stuff now. So I think that also kind of, I'm curious to see what you two guys' backgrounds are and how technology affects it over time as well.
A lot.
Well, yeah. Because I know from your stories, Ben, yours reaches a little bit further back to like getting VHSs. Like I'm too young for that. Like my thing is like, as I'm a teenager, is like using the internet to like special order like an anime. I think literally the iShield 21 anime, which wasn't released in America, like a box set of it. And like, I don't know if this works in my DVD player or not. I think it ended up working, but it was very temperamental. But it's like, that's my VHS tape story, because when we had VHS tapes, I was too young. I did not have money or a car because I was a child to do that hunt. But whenever I hear those stories, they're always very fascinating to me.
I watched a lot of Chinese bootlegs that were written in English, like the subtitles were in English, but by somebody who was a native Chinese speaker.
It still hasn't changed. Just what it's about, what that's covering is different.
Yeah.
I don't know either of these languages well, but I'm going to try to translate one from the other.
Have you ever had do you remember any milestones within the community? Like, you joined an anime club. When was your first anime convention? Did that have an impact on you?
Oh, yeah. You didn't even touch on that at
we didn't
all.
even touch on conventions. I didn't go to conventions for a long time. My first anime convention was when I was in college, over a decade ago at this point. Gosh. I went to a convention that I still go to this day, actually, called Zenkai-Con in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And the first couple times I went and just took it all in, like didn't know what cosplay was freaking wowed by, you know, all the artists in the merch area and all these panels and all these things going on. And now many years later, I'm very jaded by it. And I'm mostly just like, I think I'm at the point where it's just like, if I get booked to do a panel, I'll go do a panel and then go home. But I mean, I guess with that story, I don't know, that's a little side story that's like kind of anime adjacent, because I want to say finally this year was the first time I did an actual panel on anime at an anime convention. I've covered so many other things, but anime. I guess what? Here's a random fun question. Do you think is World War II Japanese animated propaganda, is that anime?
Oh, I mean, in a technical sense, a
little fox guy getting in a plane to start Pearl Harbor. I'm not joking.
that's you know,
and they're really cute, and they're gonna go bomb us.
You have to weird. You have to set a baseline for what you're gonna call anime.
Yeah, this would be a weird one. I'm gonna say what most people think of as anime doesn't start until Tezuka does Astro Boy.
Even though there are cute animal characters.
Yeah, I mean, it is technically anime. I'd consider it anime, but like, if you were talking
anime
recommending something to somebody, it's almost like proto-anime.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would not, outside of a historical context, I would not suggest watching this, because it's weirdly, I'm constantly like got brain things at odds where it's like, wow, look at this cute little animation, and oh yes, they're literally going to get into planes and kill Americans, and this is really weird. But I guess, you know, we had that I did a panel on World War II animated propaganda. That is the context of this, a number of years ago. But yeah, no, like the Anime Con, the one I went to was, you know, it's watching that evolve over the years has been really fascinating. I'm still to this day, I have such a fun time seeing because you can just kind of see what's majorly popular every single year about what's everybody dressed as.
Yeah.
And
Demon Slayer.
Yeah, this year was Demon Slayer, which I was really surprised by, and kind of like, come on, guys. That was kind of what started my, like, I guess it's the easy to get on one.
Yeah.
But there's always, like, there's deep cuts. It's always cool to see things that you're not expecting to see. For a couple of years, there was a lot of trolls from Homestuck, which I was really confused by.
I see them at the Ren Fair to this day. Yeah.
Like, I never understood, like, because it was like, I tried to read it, and it's not bad, but there's just so much of it. It was very, like, hard to keep track of, and it's like, how many people? And I guess it's because the costume's easy, but I don't know. I know for a while I was also surprised that there's a lot of Ruby. There was a lot of, I almost said Dangas Ronpaul, Danganronpa, which I thought was really surprising, because I was like, I thought that was a fairly niche thing. And
the
Homestuck
crowd went into Danganronpa.
That makes sense.
There's a lot of like,
oh man, I don't know if this is, I guess I don't have any other time to tell this story. But I remember before that got released in America officially, I would, and still to this day, lurking is the verb that I want.
There you go.
I lurk the forums, the Let's Play forums of the forum Something Awful. And just one day, many, many, many years ago, somebody showed up and started doing a translation playthrough of Danganronpa. And that thread, I remember that thread getting so popular because Tumblr people started showing up. But the thing is, Something Awful has a paywall. So at a certain point, they turned the paywall on, and a bunch of them couldn't get in and started complaining. And a couple of them did buy accounts to read it. I think that was also, I don't remember if I bought one then or earlier, where I was like, well, I don't want to have to deal with these paywall times. I want to read all the things that I'm reading and keeping up with. So, but it's just, it was weird being on... Like, it's not even like I read the manga before the anime. It's just like this singular guy is translating this thing that is now like this massive multi-game anime, costume, all this. Like, it's everywhere. Like, it's a known thing. And to get in the beginning, and it's like the weird bits, like I guess when our translation episode or something would fit in there, it's like I don't actually know what they call them in the actual translations, but to me, always all the characters in that, they're like the best at something.
The ultimates.
Yeah, I know them as super high school level blank. That is how he translated them, and that's just what they are to me because of that. But it was interesting taking that and going like, oh yeah, this was really popular, but it was like this weird little corner of the internet, and then seeing it like explode at a con, and I'm like, really? Like this weird little corner thing, a bunch of people know about it. So yeah, I never fully understood. I think my like one hypothesis was, at least for this con, it's like, what was something that people could watch for free?
Yeah.
Because that was why it's like, well, Homestuck and Ruby and like Danganronpa was like from watching like YouTubers play it, and it was just like, that was my only guess, like, because it was just I don't know. No, but like that was like a big moment for me going to those cons initially, and the first couple just kind of taking them in, and then a couple years in going, wow, some of these panels are garbage. I can do better than this, and then I did multiple times.
We should say, hey, if you're listening to this and you want to see us at ZenkaiCon, let us know.
Yeah, we should probably submit that actually, because events are open, and I would be down to do that panel.
If you have any ideas of what we should talk about, we have some vague ideas.
Yeah.
So,
but it's the I guess this whole thing is about our like origin stories and how we change over time. Like I've definitely like I've gotten my fill of it. I'm kind of jaded. It's like I've got all the art that I want pretty much. Nobody's really doing panels that I haven't already seen that I'm interested in, except me and my friends, I guess. Like I've done all the things. I've seen all the cosplay. I've had the moments. This isn't my scene anymore. I'm an elder statesman. I'm accepting that this is a young man's game.
The role, like speaking of technologies, the role of conventions has changed tremendously with the easily available anime and manga.
Yeah. I mean, I've never, like, I am not someone who's like, I can make friends with a stranger, because it's like, I don't know who you are, and I'm never going to see you again. So I'm not talking to you. So, like, the main thing of cons of that, it's mostly just like, oh, I'll see my friends that I see, once a year at that one. And that's kind of waned as well, also with the power of, like, the internet and, like, them not being my friends anymore. So, but no, it is interesting seeing that lens, because that was definitely, like, a major, anime convention is the big thing, and it's, in that the beginning, it's so bright lights, and then you go through your phases. I'm like, I'm just here to take it in. Okay, now I'm cosplaying for the first time. Now I'm presenting for the first time. Now I'm a part of this and that, and I'm just being like, okay, I've played my game. I'm done. I'm gonna just do my little presentations and go home.
Well, if we actually go,
I'm in.
Then I'm gonna do all of that stuff all at once.
Oh yeah, because you've never
I've never been.
done it.
Oh wow.
Do we want to? So yeah, if you're saying, Brad, that you're gonna have to experience it all together, you've never done the Anime Con. Let's hear your story then.
Yeah. Well, so a couple things to start this off. First, before we get into anything, just a bit of a spoiler warning. Everything's fine now. My life is good. Everybody's happy.
Okay.
So we'll
We're
get into
Tarantino.
What an ominous opening that has instantly put me on guard. The big JoJo menacing go is emanating from you now.
And that is to say, I haven't always been Isekai Sensei-Sama. In fact, I've only been Isekai Sensei-Sama for a couple years now.
You're just a Brad San before.
Yeah.
Used to be
I love
Kimo-
saying San. Like it's the most American. Just big. Isn't it San?
San.
San. Brad San.
Minasan.
Kimochi warui sama.
What'd that mean?
It's like you make me feel gross, sensei.
What a phrase to know.
So yeah, we had fairly similar origins. Now I'm a couple years older than you, so a lot of the stuff that you were talking about, when you were more young, I was a bit older when that stuff was going on. But yeah, in very early on, I got introduced to anime on Fox. I distinctly remember playing with Pokemon cards and not understanding how to play. And me and my friend would just sort of like put cards down in front of us and be like, this card says this, so that's more powerful than that. Basically like playing war with Pokemon cards.
That's fun. That reminds me when I rented the Pokemon card game from Blockbuster, but I was too young and couldn't read, so we had to take it back because it was too complicated for baby me.
So I was never really into Pokemon. I don't know why we were playing that card game, but I'd seen the cartoon a couple times. And I think
it feels very indicating that we call it a cartoon and not an anime.
Well, yeah, I was
that
definitely
one got cartoonified. Yeah,
I was at an age where I didn't understand that there were like other people in the world that did things differently, and so the idea that like this is a cartoon from another country who doesn't speak our language and people like changed it and made it in our language and stuff like that didn't really connect with me. And it wasn't until, I would say my early teens when I started watching Toonami that it really was like, oh, this is stuff from a different place. It's interesting and foreign and like there's aspects to it that don't make sense in the context of, where I live. Like, oh, it's different, I really got into Cowboy Bebop early on.
Wow, okay.
And Trigon was another one that was I was really into. And those were like the Toonami things. And
yeah,
I would stay up late and watch those because I was never a sleepy baby. And then, that was fairly standard stuff for the time. I was actually homeschooled. My parents
I did not know that.
took me out of school starting 6th grade. So it was actually the year after Columbine.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I didn't really have, I had friends and I went to like a homeschool group. But if anybody knows anything about homeschool groups, those aren't really the kind of people who are okay with Japanese media.
No. Really anything outside of their homogeneous.
Yeah. So, I didn't really have a whole lot of people to talk to about it. But, I kept up with those kind of things, the Toonamis and whatnot. So what was available there? I think Naruto probably started around that time, but I think Naruto was probably a little bit later into my teens because I only ever really watched like maybe the first 50 episodes of Naruto dubbed. And I think it was probably about the time when I built my first computer when I was like 16, 17.
That sounds about right for when I was getting to Naruto. It was like early teens and junior high.
I think it was about then that I started like seeking out subtitled stuff. I was really into Naruto for a long time. I watched the entirety of it. I watched all of Shippuden up until it ended just a couple years ago.
Wow. I did not know that. I like that Naruto is this big like... I mean, that was the big... Dragon Ball Z was kind of already an established thing as we were coming up.
Yeah, I watched Dragon Ball Z.
It wasn't happening in real time as we were aging.
It was the dub of Dragon Ball Z, but that was on... I forget what channel that was on, but it was basically where you would get one new episode like a month, and then the rest of them would be repeats.
Oh,
and so
weird. Okay,
I don't think I got even to like the Boo saga. I think it was like the
They were airing
Frieza
reruns.
and Cell sagas, and it took forever.
They were airing reruns of Namek for, I want to say, 3 years in a row.
So
before we
In
got a
order or
sub.
out of order?
I mean,
In order,
both.
but they would play like 2 episodes of Dragon Ball Z in that block, and one would be a rerun and one would be new if you were lucky.
Yeah.
And they would just loop through Namek over.
Oh
and
my gosh,
over.
the weirdness of back in the day of just like, hey, we're playing a new episode every day or every day on every time. And this time, if you miss it, tough. You don't get to see it again. I thought, sorry to take the mic, but like I thought with like Boba, where it's like there's an episode that I just missed and thought about.
Well, and
for
I did
years that I never saw.
I missed a lot of Dragon Ball, and to the point where the Saiyan saga and then like the Boo saga, I didn't really know. Like I had a vague idea that they were things, but I never saw them. It wasn't until years later, and especially with Abridged, that I was like, oh, there's a lot more to this. So yeah, the pretty standard ones in my teens. I started watching Bleach.
Are you reading anything, or is this purely
no?
watching
And so
it?
that's important to note. I was aware of manga for a very long time, but I was never. I never really picked it up. I can't remember a single manga that I ever like physical manga. I know both of you have like this attachment to physical manga, and I just did not have that ever. There might have been a time where I had like one random one, but I don't even remember it.
Okay.
So yeah, just a different experience on that side. But yeah, so I was into, most of the mainstream, I guess you would call it, mainstream American on the American side. What?
Normie.
Yeah.
Normie weeb.
Normie Weeb stuff, normie American Weeb stuff. However, in my late teens, I started, actually going on the internet, and I had done some internet dabbling in my younger teens. But I started getting into like Newgrounds and just different forums and stuff.
Yeah.
There was this forum that I frequented a lot. It was called the Lightsaber Crew.
Oh, I'm excited to hear about this.
Yeah.
And this isn't really connected to anime in any way, but I spent so much time on there, and I was so annoying. This was like, there was all these people in like their 20s who were like hanging out and on this place, and I was that annoying kid that they all put up with and like had to put in his place a whole bunch and stuff. So
knowing how you talk on the internet now, I believe it 100%.
Did you have your forum rank and everything? Like your 10,000 posts?
Yeah, they had ranks. And we got really into making like the banners that would go in your signature.
You were a poster.
Yeah.
I've been a lifelong lurker, so that is an experience
No,
alien to me.
I did a few forums. I had my signature. I cobbled together from like manga frames.
Yeah. And so like at first, someone else would like take commissions to make your lightsaber. And then I got into it, pirated Photoshop and like made my own lightsaber and everything. But yeah, so that's just to say, like, I got really into like weird internet shit.
Yeah.
And so, especially stuff like Newgrounds, you really get into sort of the meta.
I'm beginning to understand the caveat at the beginning. Because I was into this too. I didn't go full hog into Newgrounds, but yeah, some forums were better than others. Like there was definitely a dark side to that.
Yeah. So
this was before 4chan like collected them all into one place.
Yeah, I never got into 4chan.
Like some sort of twisted.
So there was a time when I would,
Gems of Power.
Look at 4chan every once in a while, but I like never posted on there. And it was definitely the kind of thing where it's like you just sort of glance at it and go, yeah, that's too much.
Yeah. I was fortunately too old by the time 4chan came out to like fall prey to the 4chan stuff. But
yeah. So yeah, and then I got into college. And I had a friend in college who was pretty into anime, but mostly the mainstream stuff. I remember specifically he read manga, like he had physical books. But even then I was like, I didn't connect to that at all. I don't know. When I was a kid, I used to read books.
I was going to ask if you read like books, if you just read in general.
Yeah, I actually, when I was a kid, I read a lot of books to the point where specifically like after like the third Harry Potter book, I would get it like the day it came out and read it straight through that night.
Wow.
Like reading was a thing that I did, but for whatever reason, and comic books and stuff like that too. Like not a ton of different comics, but like there was something I read, but for whatever reason, the manga stuff just didn't click with me. Which, as we get later into this, is really strange.
Yeah. Correct.
So yeah, in college, I just sort of continued with a lot of that. Bleach was a big thing then. Naruto was still going on. But then after I got out of school, pretty shortly after I started working, it was only like a year and a half, maybe 2 years after I started working, like professionally, I got laid off from a job and was unemployed for a year and a half.
Whoa.
Yeah. Oof. During that time, I got way deeper into anime. That was the time where I started getting into the Kazuko fan subs.
The One Piece.
Yeah, so I was like going heavy on like torrenting and stuff like that, to the point of like I would go on those forums. I don't think I ever really posted on there, but I would lurk those forums and like watch what other people are saying.
Yeah, because they're
watch people arguing about what the subtitle's supposed to be, and like, oh, should it say Nakama or yeah, like that kind of stuff.
Is our one.
Yeah, there used to be like torrent aggregators.
Oh,
but they didn't always get the new episode. If you wanted the new episode like as soon as it came out, you had to lurk the fan summers.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that, and I think that might have been when Naruto ended and Naruto Shippuden started around that time.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think Kazoku was going for a long time.
Oh, yeah. But
I mean, they've been around for forever.
And Bleach was a big thing then. I was downloading all the Bleach stuff. I remember catching up on One Piece because I hadn't watched One Piece before. I got into it at that point, and I would watch like 12, 15 episodes a day.
Oof.
Wow.
That time was, it wasn't the worst, but it definitely wasn't good. I would my circadian rhythm drifted. So I would start I wouldn't go to bed until I was tired. And, that start off, it's midnight, I'm going to bed. Oh, it's 12:30. Oh, now it's 1. And just slowly over time, it got to the point where I wouldn't be going to bed until 9 a.m. and I would sleep until like 6 p.m.
Oof, you got flipped.
When you have nothing to structure your day, that's what happens.
Yeah, and you can just sit and watch anime all day. Then.
Yeah. That was also the time when I got really, really into Left 4 Dead.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I have between Left 4 Dead 1 and 2, something like 6,000 hours in Left 4 Dead.
I've
almost
seen your Steam
there,
profile.
but I'm not surprised too much, I guess.
But yeah, so that was, and funny enough, I didn't get into manga at that point. But I
waiting for the best.
But yeah, really, really into the anime stuff at that point. So when that time came to an end, was also the time when I met my wife.
Yeah.
I started dating my wife a month before I got a job. Now, I did actually, I was working a little bit on the side. I worked at a friend's Italian food stand in a farmer's market.
Okay.
2 or 3 days a week. But of course, that was just like something to do. It wasn't
side hustle,
But, and just in case anybody's confused, that was the time when President Obama kept extending unemployment. like over and over again. So I actually like was okay to not work that whole time. Not that I wasn't looking, but
Yeah.
So my life turned around a lot at that point. And I didn't really, drop anime or anything like that, but I did, it did sort of slow down. And I think it was like 6 months before that I had started doing YouTube Let's Plays. I was doing Minecraft, and then I would also play like old like Super Nintendo games and stuff like that.
Okay.
And I did that a couple years. I think I stopped that right before my son was born, which was only like two and a half, 3 years, something like that.
Okay.
My wife and I, we moved fairly quickly. I think we were only seeing each other for like a little over a year when I asked her to marry me. So
yeah, I was in the same boat. We only dated for a year before I got married.
So yeah, after that, it was all fairly straightforward stuff. I would watch different animes and stuff, and there was stuff that I liked. I forget when it was, but I think it was after the first season was over, but I started watching Overlord. And
it was all downhill from there.
Yeah.
I can't remember if that was
the needle pricked your
first.
finger, and now you're addicted to heroin.
I can't remember if that was first or if Konosuba was first. But something in there was that I had my first isekai experience, and something about it really clicked. I remember Overlord specifically. I like Konosuba, but Overlord was one where I watched that and I was like, this is incredible.
I could stand to be an all-powerful demigod.
yeah, exactly. So, unfortunately, now I have to get into some of the bad stuff, and it is important.
Oh.
So, I've talked to a lot of people about this before. It's not really a secret, but my wife has some issues, and a couple years ago, it was 3 years. I think my son was about 3 at the time. So like 3 years after he was born, she started having like some severe issues. And it got to the point where like she had to go to the hospital a couple times. I remember at one point she was like incomprehensible, like babbling kind of stuff. Just stuff you don't want to have to deal with.
Scary stuff.
Yeah, scary stuff, and the kind of thing where you're like, what's going to happen to my life,
Yeah, you can do with an escape at that point. Just any moment where your brain's distracted.
Interestingly enough, that went on for a couple years, and I didn't really have any kind of full escape mechanism kind of thing. I was, and it definitely affected me a lot. I had some issues with depression and things like that, and not to the point where it really affected my outside life, but my home life definitely suffered from it.
Well, it's the masking mental illness. That's a thing. You can function like
you can appear functional.
Yeah, and still be miserable.
Right. Stuff really came to a head when the pandemic happened. So
we've already, just for timeline's sake, Weeb Cabal, this little trio has already started at this point.
Yeah.
So we're watching anime, and I think we're already talking about, and I think are reading manga at this point.
I was not.
I swear we read Chainsaw Man when we were still in the office.
I don't.
And talked about it.
Maybe.
Yeah, but
I might have dabbled a little bit.
Yeah,
in it at
it's
that
the
point.
opener.
No,
Just to set the
I
table.
remember this because I do remember the beginning of the list.
Yeah. So what happened was pandemic starts, everybody goes home, and we're all at home for months and months. And, before that, I was going into the office 4 days a week. I got to work from home on Fridays already, which was great. Great company. But Once the pandemic started, everybody was working from home.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody was going anywhere. And, I'm in my house all the time with my wife, who is still dealing with these issues.
Mm-hmm.
And so things weren't as bad as they were at their worst, but it was still like sort of more of a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
It can wear you down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no escape. Yeah, if you're constantly around what's stressing you out and you don't have any where to go to not be there, it's gonna start picking through you.
Now, I don't remember what started it. Now, I do, like you said, we started reading Chainsaw Man. It might have been One Punch Man that I started because I had watched the anime. I was really into that, and then I saw people posting the manga, and I was like, I really like this. I'm gonna read this. And I had read manga before, but not like for real. And so I start reading this, and I go on Manga Dex. And for anybody who's not aware,
it begins.
Manga Dex has like everything ever, basically. And having dabbled a little bit with the isekais, with like Overlord and Konosuba, I started looking at those, because at that time, now it's a little different now because the Manga Dex got hacked and they're not back to their like full functionality. But at the time, you would get these recommendations. Like you would see like, oh, lots of people are reading this and this is rated this, and those kind of things. And so I would start clicking on new things. Given that we were locked at home and I wasn't going anywhere, I just started reading and reading and reading and reading. Now, as of today, my follow list on Manga Dex, I believe, is somewhere above 651.
So that's 600 manga you read every time a new chapter comes out.
Well, yes,
but
a lot of those don't come out that
regularly.
often.
Okay.
So there's a lot that are only once a month.
So it's not like every week you read 600 chapters.
No. However, for a period of time there, because a lot of these were already out. There were already 20, 50, 100 chapters out.
Backlogs to go through.
For a while there, I was reading potentially 50, 100 chapters a day.
So if we say a chapter is about 15 pages, that's...
A lot of them are pretty short like that. Some of them are longer. Some of them are in the 30s. There's a couple that stretch into like 50-page territory.
Jeez.
So that's still upwards of like 1,500 to 3,000 pages a day.
Yeah, I can say with fairly good certainty that in a we'll say a year period, I probably read 100,000 pages.
Not surprised.
See, this is what you need to do if you want to be the Isekai Sensei-Sama.
And that's the thing.
That's the kind of commitment you gotta make.
I read a bunch of different ones, but the isekais were the ones that really grabbed me for some reason. And I say for some reason. I'm talking about that right now.
You probably read 100,000 chapters.
The reason that the isekais grabbed me was because, I already had an idea of them that like I like this. And I didn't really think about this at the time. But the thing is at that time, I was in a really bad spot, and isekais are so escapist. It's like your life is terrible, but now you're in a completely different world. These are completely different people. And also you have superpowers. And so you can just like immerse yourself and just completely forget about everything that's going on.
Yeah, it's like it's your old life died and you got to start over. No guilt, no strings attached. Like it's just, I could see how that would appeal.
So I believe at the time, because when the pandemic started, we went fully remote and we started, because before that we were watching every other week.
Were we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't remember.
And I believe when the pandemic started, we said,
What else are we doing?
we're not doing anything else. Why don't we just do this every week? So we started doing once a week, but remote.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I have to ask you guys, like, do you remember seeing a change? I mean, I definitely talked about
I remember
how much I was reading.
us checking in on your number every single week.
Yeah.
And seeing it get bigger and bigger was always like a big
I
moment
remember
when it passed certain thresholds and being surprised by it.
I think I remember when you bought the tablet so you could read them more conveniently.
Right. So I bought a laptop.
Yeah.
And I never actually really read manga on that because it was honestly, it was too big and heavy. But the idea at the time was like, oh, it's a folding one, and so like I can use it as a laptop, and then I can also like fold it and use it as a tablet. And that never happened. But, yeah, and so sort of continuing there, it was like a year into the pandemic that MangaDex got hacked and just was gone.
But you're already Isekai Sensei-Sama.
I was Isekai Sensei-Sama, and I was so deep into it, and I lost my mind.
I remember. I do remember the outage, the great outage of MangaDex, because that definitely seemed like a major event in your life. Because I remember that being brought up all the time.
It was down for like 9 months.
It was a while.
And the thing was,
who wants to work for free on an illegal website for, or questionably
legally gray.
Yeah.
Legally gray.
A legally gray website.
By the way, if anybody that works on MangaDex is listening to this, thank you so much.
You're doing commies work.
I have donated
lives
to them.
Genuine in this case, genuinely, I do believe that. I mean, obviously, you can speak more to your own experience, but for you, I think it saved lives.
I don't.
Saved sanity at the very least, or made things easier. Yeah.
I wouldn't say anyone's life was in danger, but yeah.
We didn't see that timeline.
So when this outage happened, a couple months into just reading as much stuff as I could, I got really into villainous manga. So like Villainous Revenge or Villainous Isekai and stuff like that. And so when MangaDex went down and I was like, what the heck am I going to do? I'm going crazy here. I can't read my mangas. I went over to Bento. And Bento is manhwa.
I can't read my mangas, so I just moved a little further left and found Korea.
Exactly. And
manhwa, close enough.
I basically did the same thing there, where I just started diving into it and reading hundreds of chapters. And I think my list on there is like 150 at this point.
Wow.
Yeah. So, between the two of them, I'm well into the 700s. I might have cracked 800 by now.
I feel like it's interesting. It's like, and I'm excited then to hear Ben's. It's like you hit your manga renaissance when you were an adult, in an era where you could get a nigh infinite number of things at your fingertips.
Yeah. Well, and that was probably why.
It's the curiosity of like, what if I don't hit mine until when you did, or if you hit yours when you were like a teenager or something.
And I think
that would have shaped things.
It also shaped me because of how it happened. There are, like I said, there's hundreds and hundreds of things that I read. At least half of them are no good. At least.
Charitably,
and the thing is I still enjoy reading them. I don't care that they're trashy. I don't care that they're not that good. I like
that's the part. Like, I mean, I've always given you garbage about eating garbage, and I still don't understand it.
And I have no shame about it.
I understand it a bit. I don't have it with manga and anime, but I do have it with horror movies.
It made way more sense during the pandemic when we were all locked at home, because it was just like, I just need something to do. But I actually started going back into work a year and a half ago. It was basically right after the vaccine came out, sort of to the wider public. It was May, I think, of 2021.
Yeah.
And my my manga reading habits haven't really slowed down. Now I haven't been picking up a bunch of new series, but there's still all of these series that I read that, there's probably 30 chapters a day that I read.
Wow.
I could watch any drive-in horror movie from the 60s and 70s and any time. I have my trash. I know what it's like to have my trash. That's just not my trash.
But that's the thing is like, that's the thing that I do. I read a couple chapters in the morning before I start work. I read a couple chapters as a break here and there throughout the day. And I read a couple chapters at night. So, most of the time I'm not, slogging through it for hours on end. Every once in a while, for whatever reason, a ton of chapters will drop at once. And so I'll be reading for like an hour and a half or whatever. But
honestly, though, like, no matter how trashy it is, no matter how junk foody it is, it's probably better than smoking. I mean, it's definitely better than smoking cigarettes or drinking or any other kind of chemical distraction, but it's also better than, like, you can't stop watching TikTok, or you can't stop playing Candy Crush, or you can't stop. I mean, lots of people have.
It was one of those,
their...
it was just of the grand scale of what this could be. This was, as much as I will razz you about it, this one is fairly harmless and probably on the better side of the spectrum of
I should also
addictions to
point
have.
out, this is pretty important. Like I said at the beginning, everybody's cool now. Everything's fine. My wife, she had a medication change late 2020, and things really turned around. She's doing really great now.
Good to hear.
Yeah, nice.
And my son's doing great, and I just kept reading manga. It's something that I enjoy doing. I don't know if you could call it an addiction. It doesn't affect my life in a negative way.
I'd say it's only an addiction. If you had to stop, would you experience negative side effects?
We already saw that.
The only
I don't live your life, Brad, but we literally talked about withdrawal when you said Manga Dex went down a couple years ago, and you were like, oh my gosh.
There was a bit of that. However, it wasn't like...
Little neck scratch.
It wasn't like, oh my God, I'll do anything to read manga, right? Because I didn't go out and buy any. So.
LSGD for a chapter, man.
I didn't go out and buy it. I didn't order it on Amazon.
But
God forbid I pay for it.
The one thing that really gets me is like, if I can't read it for a couple days and a whole bunch of chapters build up, that sort of like gives me anxiety, because it's that idea of like, oh, I got to catch up now.
You don't like building up the backlog?
Yeah. I hate having the backlog, which is why I read it every day. But that's happened a couple times where I haven't been able to read for a couple days because, we go away, or, something's happening and I don't get a chance to read. And yeah, when I get back to it, I'm like, okay, I've set aside 4 hours to just read manga. But yeah, so, and then, late 2021, we started doing a podcast. And I truly became Isekai Sensei-Sama.
Here we are a year later. Yeah.
And you know what? I still love it. I enjoy all of it. The animes and the mangers.
The phone got mongers on it?
I have a great time with it. So, yeah.
That's good. Good story. I like the happy ending at the end.
For now.
Jeez, okay. Ominous. I guess for similar to what you asked me, do you have something that stood out that stuck with you, or something that stood out that you remember watching as a kid that's just kind of disappeared from the landscape? That still you remember and or revere?
I mean, I think I touched on this a little bit. Cowboy Bebop was like a really important thing to sort of kickstart me into anime. It's always something that I think back on as like the first true anime experience that I had, and I still enjoy to this day. It's one of the only series that I would ever consider watching dubbed. The dub of it is pretty good. I've watched the subtitled one; those voices are great too. But like that one works in English, a lot more so than any of those. Trigun, when I was young, I didn't actually watch through the entirety of Trigun because it was on Toonami, and I, didn't get to do that. But that was in English. The subtitle version of Trigun is way better. So,
do you have something less mainstream?
Well,
or something
no,
maybe that you watched that you're like look back on, you just go, ugh.
Naruto was my through line.
So mainstream.
And that only ended a couple years ago when Shippuden ended, and I watched it straight up till the end, and I liked it the whole time. I don't know if the original one really holds up. Actually, check out Furu Sendo's. He just did a video on that. It's pretty good take. So that was the mainstream. Bleach was, I also sort of followed that through. I didn't start watching the new series yet.
Nothing, no weird outliers, no you trying to figure out what your tastes are. Like,
no, I didn't really.
You
get
just came out
weird
fully
until
formed
recently.
as a shonen baby.
Yeah, I mean, basically.
I guess because when you have anime, you don't have as much choice in what's coming at you. I think that was with manga, because I'm remembering, I'm glad I went first, but after hearing your story, all these other memories are flooding back to me, and I'm remembering of in junior high, my girlfriend at the time, who was also into anime, having a bunch of shoujo stuff, and she had all the Fruits Basket, and I was just I want to read things, but I can't do it. I can't read this. This isn't my thing. But I guess that's the thing of, because it's anime, you're getting it, it's more curated than manga, which is just a free-for-all.
Yeah. It wasn't until I started torrenting stuff that I had copies of things that I could go back and watch.
You had a choice that you could go look around a little bit more about what was the greater thing out there that wasn't just showing up on television dubbed. So
I never got stuff on, tape or DVD. Heck, Avatar, The Last Airbender was more of a thing, I think, when I was, that age. Because I watched that as it came out. I was really into that. It's a great series. You should definitely watch it if you haven't. I didn't have my own, of anything.
You didn't have this is my weird thing that I treasure that's not the, okay.
Yeah. So, I was aware of the culture, late in my teens, and I started getting information on those kind of things, but there wasn't anything that I connected to in a way that I was I have to, have this in my possession. Yeah. Well, I guess Ben's going to go last since he's the only one who hasn't gone yet. But before that, I think we need to check the mailbag.
As is normal, as is standard, between Acts 2 and 3, we got a letter from one Truxon. I've read through this one. This one's kind of a doozy.
Oh, no.
I'm a little nervous about reading this on recording.
Okay,
I'm sure it'll be fine.
I guess
I'm sure if whoever does not like it, I'm sure if we do it, they will make themselves known and we can just cut it.
Yeah, so we'll record the whole thing. Just know that maybe I'm gonna cut some of it out when I edit it.
Yeah,
it'll be redacted.
We've had ones redacted. That's why I'm really surprised, because I remember in those early days when we were getting the Truxon letters, his letters, there was stuff straight up black marker redacted out, and this one's clean as a whistle.
There's nothing redacted in it. Did it come in a different way?
Same as always.
Huh.
I don't know. I don't know what's up.
All right.
So
don't do it.
Let me get. Now I gotta move away from the nervousness. That's not the Truxan energy.
Don't do it.
Dear, that time I got reincarnated in the same world as an anime podcast host, Brad, Ben, and Kermit. I can't believe it. You gabagool made it a full year, making your weird podcast that keeps me entertained while I'm out making my rounds, putting wheels to pavement, and the front bumper to and my front bumper to fragile nerds. As congrats for making it this far, and because you're already sharing your origin stories. Kind of weird he already knows that, but we're in the middle of recording.
How did
I, Truxan, will share my origins in this otherworldly organization of mine. If you haven't already gotten the vibe of it, I'm not Japanese. I know, total surprise, right? I'm actually from the United States of America. Grew up on the mean streets of New York and Little Italy. You paisanos haven't lived until you've gotten a fresh slice of za from Silent Vinny's on Fix in Lexington. I'm getting off topic. Japan's pizza game is just not at that level, and it weighs on me heavily. So, my origins. If you'd also believe it, I'm also outside of time. I was born way back in the roaring 1920s, and when the big war started after Pearl Harbor, I joined the Navy to become a pilot. I was so cool, cruising in my Spitfire plane. Probably why I'm such a good truck stand driver now. Well, one day I'm off on a mission, flying over the Pacific, and I think I see Japan off in the distance. And I'm this big hotshot hothead, so I start flying towards it. So, bad move for truck sod. I run out of fuel well before I'm anywhere near land and crash into the ocean and die.
Yeah, didn't he just say he's a good pilot?
No, but he's good at flying around. He's not good at keeping track of his fuel. So I crash into the ocean and die. But wouldn't you know it, I'm just close enough to mainland Japan that as your boy breathes his last, a fucking goddess shows up. Turns out for Japan's agency, you don't need to be Japanese to get in. You just need to be close enough when you die.
Oh.
And they didn't want this mouthy American going to some fantasy world, so bam! That's how I got hired by the agency. And I've been driving my truck ever since. Wow. I don't think I've ever told anyone my story. It feels freeing. The agency doesn't normally like us talking about it, especially me. But I'm sure they'll be cool with it. Your favorite driver, Truckson.
But that's not redacted.
They've made themselves really clear that they do not like him talking about those things. And the fact that came here completely unredacted and we learned all those things makes me really nervous.
I mean, I guess I'll put it in then. None of it's redacted. That
I know,
must mean
like you
it's
would
fine,
think they would
right?
do something about it.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm sure. Well, yeah, I'm sure it'll be
They've
fine.
already proven themselves in past episodes that when there's something they don't like, they make themselves known. And obviously, if they didn't do anything here, it's fine.
Yeah. So it'll be all right. Although that does seem like a lot of information we're not supposed to have.
I know.
Trucksan seems like a pretty guy who's pretty with it. Probably knows all the rules, well aware, got his finger on the pulse of the corporations.
Japanese corporations.
The guy who didn't know that it takes fuel to fly across the ocean?
Well, no, but that's him. That's a long time ago. He's a much older and wiser Trucksan.
He said he was out of time. We don't know how long ago for him that was.
Yeah, true.
You're making good points.
True. Yeah. I mean, he was good.
That's why you're the
Isekai
Isekai Sensei.
Now does that pretty.
Well,
I mean, I guess he's never talked about his record for getting the right person and no collateral.
Yeah, that we're not sure. Although,
I
mean,
Trucksan.
the fact that he's still doing it is probably fine.
Next time you send in a letter, talk to us about if you've got any if you're days since an accident collateral hits are good or not. Right. I have a feeling they're good, but I want to hear it from him.
But great benevolent organization. They didn't redact anything, so I think I'm going to put it all in.
They're cool with it. Yeah,
I think it'll be cool.
I'm sure they're not going to make themselves known.
I guess.
I think we're good.
Thanks to the organization for being cool and
praise be to the organization.
Great, powerful organization.
Yeah. Zaibatsu.
All right. Well,
here we are in Act 3.
We've come to it.
Saving the best for last.
The great backstory.
I don't know. Maybe you can find out why I'm so grumpy.
I mean, I have a feeling like this is going to be a really great setup prequel kind of thing because he's our resident bookman. So
I think yours is going to be the most genuine weeb up and coming
learning Japanese.
Lay it on us.
Scholarly. Douche philosopher.
Yes.
So we're gonna find out where this came from. So say hello to Benbo Swaggins.
Bento.
Bento Baggins.
Bento Baggins
I'll
on
get
this
it right.
podcast. Yes.
Japanese.
Yes, it's got to be Japanese. Yeah, so I guess it all began in 1992.
Oh God, he's got dates.
When no, in all seriousness, in 1992, my family moved to the absolute middle of nowhere, right on the border between Pennsylvania and New York.
Weird.
Probably the biggest town.
Oh, that's even more in the middle of nowhere than where they live now.
Yeah.
It's more in the middle. On the edges of two states is actually more in the middle than in the middle.
No, honestly, probably the biggest town that anyone would know was on the New York side, even though we lived in Pennsylvania. That's Binghamton, I guess.
Hey, that's really close to Rome.
Yeah. Elmira, if anybody knows that.
No, Myra did a derby game up that way a couple years ago.
Yeah. So
Good.
there were almost no stores that would sell anything like anime or manga.
Well, you said 92.
92.
You
yeah.
would have what? You were like 5.
I was 8, I think. And so didn't have any anime or manga related stuff at that point. But in 98, I remember I think Pokemon came out, and I think Sailor Moon was also airing. I want to say it was on Fox. They had a block where it was like a few cartoons. I remember the Mighty Max cartoon. I remember Sailor Moon. Sailor Moon was the first one where I recognized that the art style was different from any cartoon I'd ever seen.
By the way, you were 4 in 1992.
Whatever.
F off. Bump off.
Oh, no. It was probably 96 then.
No, that makes
Yeah, it
sense.
was probably 96. So I was probably about 6 years old. But yeah, 98 was when I saw my first anime. And it was Sailor Moon was the first one I recognized as an anime. I noticed the style was weird. Couldn't figure out if it was like an old cartoon because it kind of had like those Betty Boop eyes.
Well, in 98, that was old.
Well, I couldn't figure out if it was old for 98.
Right, yeah.
It didn't look like Mad Max, or not Mad Max, Mighty Max.
Old for an American cartoon.
Yeah, I guess.
The old-timey. Yeah.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, we're seeing back then we had actual old cartoons on television.
Right, that's what I
fairly
mean.
regularly.
Yeah.
So
I
it's
can
not
see how.
that out of the bounds.
Yeah.
Right, how you would be
But-
like,
Used
oh,
to.
is this? Yeah.
I did notice the credits were entirely Japanese people. So that was my first clue that this came from somewhere else. Pokemon, I think I knew was Japanese then at that point. And I got really into the games. I got really into, like, too into the games. I had a Game Shark. I was one of the only kids that had a Game Shark in my town because I was one of the only kids in my town that had the internet and could order things online because we did not even have a Walmart.
Wow.
Yeah, we got. I
Although
remember,
that was back before Walmart was literally everywhere.
yeah, but I remember when we got our first Walmart, and that was the first time you could get like video games. If you wanted to get a video game, you had to drive 45 minutes to the mall in New York.
Ooh.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oofers.
No, I literally lived in a place where the cows outnumbered the people, and I'm not joking about that. So I got really into Pokemon. I had a Game Shark. I had a Game Link. I was the only kid in my school. I was the only kid for 3 schools that had those things.
You had a Game Link that you couldn't use with anyone.
No, they had Game Boys, but I had the Game Link.
He was the only one that could trade Pokemon.
Yeah, I was-
so they
be the
did-
overseer.
They
the
did have
seer.
the games.
Yeah, they had the
Pokemon
games.
trades. You want a
but-
Gengar? You got to talk to Ben.
Yeah, exactly. You want Gengar, Machamp. What were the other ones that you had to trade?
Golem. From
Golem, and there's one more. Shit, I forget. I can't believe I forget these
What
things.
color did you have?
Both.
Both.
I mean,
Yeah.
this man's already got a Game Shark and a Link.
I have
so-
had every Pokemon game since Pokemon has
I
come
said
out.
Gengar.
To this day.
I think I had. No, I had blue.
Did you need to trade for Poliwrath?
Alakazam.
Alakazam. Yep.
I had blue, and then I don't think I had another one until. Which was the one with Diamond was recent, wasn't it?
I
Recent.
think a Diamond remake came out recently.
Yeah.
It was like
Over a
the
decade.
the 4th generation. It was like the It was. I think it had a clear case. Which one was
Crystal?
Crystal. It was Crystal.
Okay, that's second. That's the second generation.
I barely played Red, and then I played like halfway through Crystal. So
I
was
It's
just
about
not.
Crystal because the other half is red.
So you may or may not know that the only way to legitimately acquire a Mew in America was to win it at a tournament.
Yeah.
They would trade it to you then.
Wow.
Whereas Mew was in the Japanese version, and Mew was in the game.
Yep.
So like it was hidden in the game file. So with a Game Shark, you could bring a Mew out. And I still remember the hex code. It is 0115D8CF.
Oh my god.
And
Love
the
it.
Reason
Love this.
The reason I remember that is because I sold Mew to a bunch of people. $5 a Mew.
Incredible. I love this.
Yeah.
I knew you were going to have the best story of the three of us.
So I used to sell Mews. And this is how I got to know that, like, you know, video games were from Japan. And I knew that Mew was in the I knew that Mew was in the Japanese version. I knew Sailor Moon was Japanese. I love Sailor Moon. And then probably everything sort of came together then with Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball was when I got into drawing.
Dragon Ball, not
Dragon
Z.
Ball Z, yeah.
Okay, I always need to confirm.
Yeah, you do, because I mean, we did have both at different
Eventually.
times.
Yeah.
Dragon Ball Z started on Fox, and then it moved to Cartoon Network,
Yeah.
where it eventually, like, then they eventually aired everything.
That's where
But,
I know it from, is Cartoon Network. I never knew it was on Fox.
Yeah, I say Dragon Ball because Dragon Ball Z is an America only thing, or maybe outside of Japan only thing. But yeah, so all my friends got into Dragon Ball Z. We all got into drawing. We all started trying to mimic Toriyama's style, drew a bunch, and then like knowledge of Dragon Ball Z became a kind of currency with my friend group. So if you could, like, Dragon Ball Z had this strange effect, which kind of like shaped my entire relationship with anime, is Dragon Ball Z was complete in Japan long before it came over here.
Yeah.
And so the whole story was out there if you could find it on the internet in the late 90s, early 2000s. And if you were really savvy, like the holy grail of Dragon Ball Z was fan subs or bootleg subs from China, which is what most of them were. You would have to know somebody who spent time in Japan or China who could get you the VHS tapes, and then you could rip those onto a computer and share them. And so we had we knew some people who traveled in our tiny town, like mostly people in the military.
Yeah.
And so we would have them like literally scour the streets of Hong Kong for Dragon Ball Z VHS. And we would have them bring it back. They had no idea what they were looking for. We would just send them pictures. Like, we want this. Spiky
Bring me
hair
a
guy.
Goku.
Yeah,
I want
bring
a
me a
Goku.
Goku. And so they would bring us bits and pieces of like the Boo Saga. I remember when we got our hands on a VHS sub of Vegito fighting Boo. And that was like, you had to be friends with the kid who had that.
Your head must have exploded.
You had to get to his house. And so anything you could know about Dragon Ball Z, like, spoiler culture never made sense to me after this, because like we were just scrambling. Like, you knew you were like, from the time we got into Dragon Ball Z to the time it actually ran to completion in America was years, like 5 years.
Yeah, I distinctly remember, like, because I never saw the Boo Saga for like the longest time, and then when I finally saw some of it, and then learned like when it actually came out, it was like mind blowing for me. It's like, why is this? It's so old, but now it's here. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, and just to be able to explain simple things, like there were huge debates at my school amongst this goes all the way into 6th grade, about like, what is something actually called? Because you had the competing dubs of Dragon Ball Z.
Oh man, you guys, you're a You're older than me, Ben, but you're like already earlier along in your anime tutelage.
Kaioken or Kaioken? Is it Saiyajin, Saiyan?
Oh my God.
Saiyajin? I've never heard that.
DBZ Abridged has the best Kaioken joke because they actually talked about this. They've been doing. Yep.
I've been watching those too.
They've been doing the
this
commentary
thing that
on
we're
it.
doing.
And
is what it's called. I believe
they talked about there's this joke. So Yamcha's like, "When are we gonna learn the Kaioken, King Kai?" Kaioken.
Yep.
What?
I'm King Kai.
Kaioken.
Like my name. Yeah. Well, and that was the Ocean dub fucked everything up.
Because they say King Kai and then they say Kaioken. It's like, what are you doing?
This also informs my hatred of bad translation because that changed the show. Like there were huge debates as children. We had no idea why. Like in one version of the episode, Tien says his hand's going to grow back, and in the other, it doesn't. Like, does his hand grow back? What is he? Is he an alien? Why does he have 3 eyes? We didn't have Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball doesn't even really explain it. But yeah, we had no idea what was going on. So knowing the truth became a currency. Like if you could explain that Saiyajin is a rearranging of the syllables of yasai, which is vegetable, and that's why they all have vegetable names, then you were like king of the schoolyard for a little bit.
Now the question is, were you actually right all the time?
No.
I was going to say, were you actually cool? Because that is such an
I was, well, I mean, cool by the standards of our time, but
I know that cool at the time is what I'm measuring by.
I was
it was the middle of
Being
nowhere.
into
He was
anime
definitely
was not a thing that made you cool or popular where I grew up. So
no. So I was very confidently incorrect about that. But I did realize that these things were Japanese. I did start to, from Dragon Ball, I started to get into other stuff that was Japanese. Then we moved back to Civilization in 2002, and I had access to a Suncoast video and a Borders that sold manga.
Now is that where your family currently lives?
In Civilization?
Like that's the same place?
Like which place are you talking about? The middle of nowhere?
No, the place where they currently live that you go and visit that I'm not going to say out loud.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I was going to say is that's a stretch to call that Civilization.
Oh, well, yeah. But
comparatively, it sounds like.
We had a mall.
Yes, definitely comparatively.
We had a mall in our town that was extravagant to me. So Suncoast Video sells anime DVDs.
Yep.
Borders.
I remember going to Suncoast years ago.
Yep.
Yeah.
Borders sells manga. So I was able to buy the first volume of Akira and the DVD of Akira.
Whoa.
And that blew my mind.
I did not see Akira until after college.
I still haven't seen it.
I
just know that his arm gets crazy, and I know the motorcycle slide. That's all I know. Literally, that's all I know about Akira.
Are we going to have a very special episode?
Where I watch Akira?
Yeah, we might.
Yeah.
It is a classic.
It's legitimately
I've been avoiding
good.
it, but it's not like it's been on that like kind of floating general like I should watch this just to know.
It's definitely not like your speed, but it is legitimately good.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I should take it in. I've been wanting to watch it, but it's not like, oh man, freaking let's sit down and watch Akira. It's like,
So at this point, I'm reading Akira. This is still like the pages are mirrored. It's printed by Dark Horse. It was actually
they printed it.
They flipped it so it reads left to right.
That's super confusing.
Yeah, all manga used to be like that.
Shonen Jump things, when I was reading it specifically told you, hey, if it read from left to right, it would have to be mirrored, and they tell you it's like if somebody's shirt said rock, it would say core.
They literally mirrored it.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what
so the panels
means,
would. I thought, yeah.
Yeah,
because you have to read because the boxes normally read right to left.
Right, I was thinking like, you have to read it like
flip
this.
The box.
Like.
No, they mirrored the whole image. And
wow.
A bunch of manga artists hated that.
Yeah, that sounds terrible.
That's probably why Shonen Jump had a specific page at the start of all their American stuff that said, hey, if you open the book at the normal start of your book, if you let it, it's like, hey, you don't start here. Go to the actual start of the other side. We read right to left.
But that's why I always talk about, like, I'm very sensitive to Japanese media becoming, like, just simply recognizing that it's from Japan. there is a big point in history where nobody wanted you to know anything was from Japan because you would associate it with weird and crap.
Check out our episode on translations and localizations.
And and so I bought this, and that's also why I get like, I started probably getting into, at this point, there's not a lot of good resources to learn Japanese unless you happen to be one of the very lucky people whose high schools taught Japanese, which is rare in the United States.
Just buy a Japanese dictionary.
You could, I mean, where would you find it? If you like, Amazon's not around yet.
Well, I know for a fact that Borders had them.
Our Borders did not have any language section.
Really?
Yeah. It was bare bones.
Huh.
That Borders would go out of business quicker than most. But yeah, so I'm reading mirrored manga. I did not know at that point Japanese read right to left. I don't think I put that together. And that was especially confusing because in video games and stuff, it doesn't. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it doesn't read right to left and up and down. But I didn't.
Oh, you mean like
that.
the actual Japanese?
Yeah.
Why would they do that?
Because the software prints left.
Oh.
So,
Right.
they were reusing old.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's a lot. Like, if you write an email in Japanese, it's not going to go in vertical columns and right to left. It's going to go. So, I started becoming aware of that. But then it was that same thing of, like, there are no good sources. There's no reputable authority on this. And I'm getting interested in knowing what things are actually like. I'm starting to get interested in, like, going to Japan, knowing Japanese, reading the original. And when I start looking at the very little bits of Japanese text I can get my hands on, I'm starting to realize I'm not getting the authentic thing. I'm getting this highly Americanized thing. And I started to associate Japanese with cool.
Yeah.
And I started to associate.
I think we probably all did that for a little while.
That's what being a weeb is about.
Yeah, like I wanted to know the deep lore of the anime. I hated getting it filtered through a translator. I hated that Dark Horse had to print Akira in
Let me see
magazines.
Glorious Nippon.
Yeah.
I think it was probably Bleach for me that started that.
What?
Of like, oh, this is edgy and cool. Japanese stuff is edgy and cool.
I mean,
without understanding how much.
Did you have a katana or won a katana when growing up as a teenager?
Yeah, and then I grew up and I got one.
I know, I have one
And then
too. I got
another
one
one
for helping a friend clean their house, and they said a tenant left this year, and I said I want it, and they said okay, and it still sits on my dresser.
One year
for some reason.
for my birthday, my wife bought me 2 katanas. One of which is like just, one of those fake ones. And one of which is an actual, real, sharp katana that I could like hurt someone with.
I have 2 katanas. Hear me out. So I also started to get into martial arts at this time. I started off doing something called Wado Kai, which was Japanese. And then that instructor like skipped town. Nobody ever saw him again.
Oh, okay.
So then I got into Taekwondo, which is Korean.
I did Taekwondo.
Hey, that's very much like Brad's situation. He was reading Japanese manga, and then the reader skipped town for a while, and then he went to Korea.
Well, and I remember being that age, and it's like, I want to do Japanese martial arts. I don't want to do Korean martial arts. Japan's cool. I want to do Japanese martial arts.
Hey, have you heard about Korea? It informed a lot of things about Japan and vice versa.
So I
You don't know
started.
that yet.
I started doing Taekwondo, and the martial arts community is like huge weebs because they grew up on like the karate movies, the martial arts movies, and so I started hanging out with some people there who knew all about anime. There was actually a lady who trained with us named Sakiko, who spoke Japanese, was from Japan, taught Japanese at a college, actually.
Now, was this after you moved?
Yeah, this is this is a civilization.
You were cool out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And then you moved to what is more civilization.
Yeah, as you might predict, like the deeper I get into this stuff, the less everybody around me is able to relate to it, and nobody cares about my great endeavors and my amazing discoveries. Yeah, so I'm watching Akira, and like I'm going ham into like I want it to be dark and adult, and like anime is not for kids, guys. Like anime is serious business.
Except for all of it, that's for kids.
Yeah, except for it's entirely for kids.
Of it.
Yeah, that took me once I came to grips with that, I got a little better. I went into like more douche than philosopher.
I'm glad I did not meet high school Ben.
Yeah.
How old would you say you were at this time?
Probably about 14, 15.
Yep, that's
well,
the
that
time.
makes
That's
plenty
the
of
time to be
sense.
cringe about anime.
Yeah.
That is the time.
So I watched I was into torrenting, I was into forums, I was into scanlations. I remember reading bootleg Full Metal Alchemist as soon as that was coming out.
Oh.
I watched Trigun, had the first Trigun on VHS where you had to choose if you bought the dub VHS or the sub because there's no multi-tracks. Then I got the rest of Trigun on DVD, one DVD at a time.
Oh,
Very expensive.
Very expensive.
because they didn't even have. That wasn't even like.
There's no box.
Oh, a whole season. It's like 4 episodes.
A whole season of something back then was $160
Wow.
for 26 episodes. Yeah.
Oh.
Yep. And so I used my entire Christmas present one year to get Evangelion.
That's a get.
After I had watched it all illegally subbed, I wanted to own it. So Evangelion I got into, way too into.
It does seem, of what I know of it, it does seem up the alley of a douche philosopher teenager weeb trash.
Did you get really into like, oh, these angels and it's an allegory and religion bad?
I wasn't a religion bad person. I like religion. I like mythology. And I also get into like going deep into the sources on that. Like I want the real shit. I want to know, I want to read the Poetic Edda
Give me the
from the
burning-
Codex Regius in Iceland, not scanned. I need to turn the pages. Like,
Give me the burning wheels in the eyes.
yeah. But I liked Evangelion. I did, I knew a lot about the Bible too. And so that made it better. I could imagine my own headcanon for the Bible, which is nerdy. Not religious. It's just, fun for me. But yeah, you could see why nobody liked me. But I was doing Taekwondo and everything, and that crowd was cool. And so from them, I got Ghost in the Shell and Serial Experiments Lane. I got really into the cyberpunk stuff for a while. And I kept trying to find like darker and creepier animes because again, it's not for kids, guys. But then Shonen Jump came out, and that was kind of that was a paradigm shift in anime culture where Shonen Jump kind of like pre-selected what the next cool things were going to be.
Yep.
Everything in Shonen Jump, those animes, even though they had all been made at like drastically different times, they all came over to Adult Swim at the same time because they were in Shonen Jump. We got Naruto, Yu Yu Hakusho, One Piece, and there was I remember the great fight about One Piece when 4Kids licensed it online. That was an explosion. 4Kids
so
was
bad.
like,
Oh my gosh, to have been old enough to be online, be able to know, like that's the interesting of that is like when you are a kid and you don't really have the internet, you don't know any better. It's not like I chose the 4Kids stuff. It's just that's what was in front of me.
I didn't get into One Piece at that point, so I didn't really like. I've definitely seen a couple of the episodes, but I didn't really understand until much later that they just so bad.
Can we record me singing the One Piece rap from memory at the end of the episode?
yo ho ho,
Sure.
took a bite of gum gum.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, but no, I remember being online, being on, I think, Anime News Network when the bidding war for the One Piece rights was going on. And everybody was kind of hoping it would go to Funimation or Aniplex. Like we all had sort of like favorite distributors, which was, it's such a weird thing to think about. In
Although
media.
I have to say, back then, I was not down with Funimation either. Like, definitely not as bad as the 4Kids stuff. And I did get that wrong that one
Funimation
time.
censored, and nobody liked them about
Funimation
for
was like, do the little kid stuff, and like,
yeah. But no, I remember having all my favorite distributors and all that stuff. And I think I went into college and I had dabbled with learning Japanese a couple of times from whatever was online. No Duolingo, no Rosetta Stone, nothing like that. There was just a couple of websites that were like, Watashi wa your name desu. And it's like, wow, I know how to say Watashi wa ben desu. I practically speak Japanese. How, like, what? I've got the basics now. What more? I just need to fill in the vocabulary. But I'm still drawing anime. I'm still doing all that stuff. And I go to college and I got like totally out of it.
Really?
I stopped watching any anime whatsoever.
Like the whole time?
Not the whole time I was in college, but I had gotten more into martial arts than anime at this point. I was still into Japanese and still into Japanese martial arts, but I was starting to get more into Chinese and Chinese martial arts and Chinese history as well. And then as I got into college, I didn't join the anime club. I did join the martial arts club. I joined, the karate club, it was called, even though we didn't do karate, which bothered me, but little stuff like that always bothers me. But yeah, the karate club they took a dim view of the anime club. So
That's interesting. I thought there would be at least some overlap.
there is some overlap, but like the anime club was not, our anime club at my college was sketchy.
I feel like at that point when you're in college, the self-loathing of being an anime fan can really kick in, especially if you're on the outs of it.
4chan was picking up at that point when I was going into college, so there were a lot of 4chan types, and that kind of meme making and stuff was big in the anime club. And
Gotcha.
but I did go to an anime convention in college, my first one, which was I think Otakon in Pittsburgh.
Still rocking and rolling. I got a
Yeah.
buddy that goes
So-
over there.
Were you back into it at that point, or did you just go, I'm going to go to this thing?
No, I just happened to be in Pittsburgh when Otakon was going on, and I was
Dang,
like,
okay.
That's weird.
I never made the choice to not watch anime. It's just I think my college internet sucked, and so my torrenting kind of just stopped.
Yeah.
And I didn't have time to torrent and curate and burn all the CDs and everything. But yeah, I went to Otakon. Did not care for the convention experience. The one thing I liked about the conventions was the shopping you could do. I liked being able to get the stuff from Japan. There weren't a lot of like import stores. Import was super duper expensive, and this was a way you could get it for a reasonable price. So I would always go to conventions just to check that stuff out, and then I would be gone. I didn't do cosplay. I didn't do a lot of the Artist Alley stuff. I didn't go to any panels. I just sort of trolled through everybody's bins, and when I was done with that, I left.
It's just a giant flea market.
Yeah, and that is what I prefer all conventions to be. That's how I treat the Renaissance Fair. I go there, I buy 20 sticks of incense, and I leave. That's
Maybe
You know,
that's what
you
he
can
wants.
buy incense at other stores.
I know, but they have really good
He
incense.
likes the incense at the
Yeah.
Red Fair.
They have good incense, and they make their own soaps and stuff. So, after I got out of college, I started to get back into anime a little bit because I was working. I got a job where I was working like 60, 70 hours a week, and I didn't know. I moved to a different town, and I didn't know anybody except the people I worked with, so I didn't mind hanging out at work. But when I was home, I was bored, and I started getting back into anime. Language learning tools had gotten a little bit better. There were more online programs, so I started learning Japanese again. I stubbornly, for a long time, resisted learning how to read. I was like, you can't possibly need to know kanji, right? But you do.
Got some words for you.
Yeah, no, you absolutely do. And so that's been sort of my renaissance with anime. I kept watching it. I was up on a few things, but I wasn't following current releases or anything like that. I was sort of just watching weird movies I heard of as they came out. Got into the Satoshi Kon stuff, which again fit with my big, dark, not for kids fantasy. But then I think Weeb Cabal was kind of my, I guess, second renaissance. I was still into the language at that point, but I hadn't followed any Shonen Jump stuff for a long, long time.
Do either of you remember how we actually got to the point of going, let's sit down together every 2 weeks and watch a couple anime together?
I have a vague sense we were in the break room that one of you talked to me about my art, because we worked in the same office at the same company, but I was on a different project. Were you two on the same project?
No, but you were also on like the other side of the office
Correct.
from us.
Yeah, I was on the other side. I never had any reason to interact with you normally, and normally did not interact with people I didn't need to. So, like, I don't know. I can't remember that time well enough to be able to say, oh, yes, of course.
I remember specifically talking to both of you, like going up and saying, hey, would you be interested? But I don't remember how we got to that point in the first place.
I don't remember how anybody found out I knew about it. Because I don't open with that.
Yeah.
Because I did learn anime is not cool.
And I didn't have anything to indicate that either.
It was me.
Yeah, you were the only one with
I ousted myself from
Yeah.
almost day one.
But there must have been
That's the
something.
weird thing about my office now is I don't have a cube, so I don't have a means of outing myself besides like having a dumb avatar or something on chat.
Do you remember what the first thing we watched was?
I think it was My Hero, because I think we saw My Hero one and the new season was coming out. And I'm like, yeah, I'll watch it together because it was just watching it.
Yeah, My Hero was up there. Mob was up there at the beginning.
Mob came a little later. Demon Slayer, maybe?
Yeah, maybe Demon Slayer.
It's weird going back to a time, even though there's only like technically 2 seasons of it, but it feels weird to think of a time where it's like, oh yeah, Demon Slayer, of course.
Do you guys remember when I made you watch the first episode of Rising of the Shield Hero?
Yeah, I hated it.
I remember not reacting to it as strongly as either of you did.
I was like, and I think
you knew I wasn't going to like it, or
the first
I said
season
I
is
wasn't going
good,
to like it.
but yeah, the first episode is an hour long, and it's like not awful in the sense of like no good, but awful in the sense of like really depressing.
After this. But yeah, it is weird to think about, like, it's those moments, I guess, if we're getting to the point now that where we are now, where it was just like, you just have your anime buds, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think I'd watch anime, really, without having you guys or my other little roller derby anime squad, because I'm bad at sitting down and watching things myself, but it's like, I enjoy doing this every week.
Yeah,
it's one of my most long-running things that I do.
I was trying to figure out what, like, the initiator was, what the series was that was like, hey, we should watch this together, because you know, I was watching a couple different things at the time. I feel like I probably watch more things than you guys do, like independently.
Yeah,
I don't watch anything outside of this.
But there must have been
something's really calling to me.
One key one that was like, we're all interested in this.
My Hero. I guess that's the question that I'd want to answer then, is that I think you talked to me about it, because like I said, I had a My Hero Academia poster up in my cube, but it's like, how did Ben get roped into this? If you guys weren't already like anime buds before that.
I don't remember.
Well, there you go. What an interesting story. What a story, Mark. But no. Thanks everybody for listening to our stories. If you have any stories of your anime prequels or upbringings, your own renaissances as you kind of grew up in your experiences, no joke, we would love to hear about them. I love hearing about other people's experiences, because I know they're going to be different than mine, or the moments that kind of resonate with you. If like I went through something like that, or like, wow, my experience was entirely different. So like, reach out to us on Twitter at, what are we?
Yeah. Right. So if you want to get a hold of us,
share your stories with us. We'll talk about it.
We got our website.
Cool.
That's a really good way. animepodcasterreincarnation.com. We got our Patreon now, which is patreon.com/animepodcasterreincarnation. And then on Twitter, you can hit me up at Isekai Sensei, Andrew at Kermit D. Grog, and Ben at Benbo Swaggins. And you can also send me an email, Isekai Sensei-Sama at gmail.com. And then we've got our YouTube channel, which is That Time I Got Reincarnated as an Anime Podcaster. So those are a bunch of good ways to get a hold of us. If you want to comment on a specific episode, you know, drop a rating on your podcast platform of choice. You could also leave like comments and stuff on Good Pods. Good place for that. So yeah, let us know. I think it'd be interesting to hear from people who are connecting with our discussions, how their anime and manga journey went, and how that might like
led them to this point.
Yeah.
Our journey led us to each other. How did their journey lead them to us, or just their own little findings?
Yeah.
What weird old series do you remember watching as a kid that has just kind of vanished off the map, but you still treasure?
There are so many, because Ben, as you were going over that and talking about like Yu Yu Hakusho and stuff, and I was like, yeah, there's so many that just I don't remember off the top of my head that I definitely saw a couple episodes of. It's just like, I'm so old.
I want to take 1 minute to reminisce about a show that was technically not an anime, but was about the popularity of anime in America, called Kappa Mikey, which was about an American cartoon being out of work in America and going to Japan and acting in anime as an American cartoon. So his lines were all thick, and everybody else's lines were drawn with a thin anime style, and the main character was very specifically voiced by the English voice of Goku.
Nice.
And it's a series that I don't think I've ever heard another human being that I've ever known talk about.
I remember it. I would never have remembered it again in my life if you hadn't brought it up just now.
Yeah, that's my job.
And don't forget to check out Words About Books. Horror Bullshit Month is just about over.
A few more surprises left.
Horror bullshit.
Nice. I've been enjoying the Bram Stoker's Dracula series that you've been going over. Somebody left a comment on Twitter about it. I think I saw it today, where they were like, "It's amazing. I thought this book was so short, and yet it's 3 episodes long."
That book is like 500 pages. I don't know what they were talking
Really?
about. Yeah. This is. I wasn't kidding. It's the Fellowship of the Ring of Horror.
Nice.
There's a lot of walking.
But yeah, I've been enjoying it. So check out Words About Books. Thanks for listening. We always really appreciate all of our listeners, and we want to hear from you. So hit us up. And if you find yourself being reincarnated in another world,
don't forget your origin story.
Our last episode currently has 69 listens.
Nice. That makes me really happy.
No one else listened to it.
I was just going to say, if you listen to it now, I will.
If you listen to it one more time, then you got to take it to 69,420.
You got to unlisten to it. I thought the whole bit was that you were going last.
What whole bit?
I thought you've been telling us for weeks that you were going to go last for this episode.
No.
Oh, really?
Is that?
I haven't super been paying attention.
I swear.
That's something I'll talk about, but yeah, the convention scene.
I'm excited to hear about convention because I don't think about that's kind of its own little bubble for me, and it's got its own weirdnesses in it. So I didn't think about it to bring it up, but it definitely fits in the narrative.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was thinking. Is part of being an anime fan in the West is you're part of this weird little subgroup. It's not just cartoons for you, like it is for people in Japan.
Yeah, there's a reason we're called. There's the weebs.
Yeah.
Which I still don't fully I know the meme it came from, but I'm so surprised that took off.
Yeah, there's a lot of. I think that's the other thing. If you bring a Japanese person over and you show them the anime scene, they'd be so confused because we've got our own stuff that stands out to us for different reasons. I remember the big one was always Gundam Wing. Gundam Wing is a forgotten series in Japan. But because it was the first Gundam most Americans got to see.
That was their Gundam.
Yeah.
It was their entry point, so it was extra special.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Put this at the end.
Talk about the freaking old Naruto fan animations that I watched on YouTube back in the day. I had a nostalgic moment with people with that fairly recently, and it was really weird because it was weird. I don't know if this is for the podcast or not. I don't even know where it fits in. But having a nostalgic moment about early internet Naruto fandom stuff. And this being with a bunch of women and having just a completely different experience with a lot of the characters. Because when you're a boy type thing growing up, Sasuke is mostly just a motherfucker and you don't like him.
Yeah.
And all of them are just yes, cringy old swooning over Sasuke. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? What is this? Why? You're adults. We're all adults now.
All right. You want to sing?
No, not anymore.
The moment has
I want to
passed.
stand up. My butt hurts.
Hey, everybody. Just heading home from recording the podcast and just wanted to take a second and say thanks again, because, we've been doing this podcast for a year now, and we've been having a lot of fun with it, and we really appreciate everybody who listens. So I just want... Oh my God, there's a truck came and it was an accident. I gotta go.